Well, good evening. This is Gina Tudela. I live here in Poulsbo, Washington, in the beautiful Northwest. And tonight I'm going to show you this stamp set, You Are Remarkable. It does have coordinating dies, but I'm just using the stamp set tonight. And of course, I'm coordinating that with the Timeless Plaid Designer Series paper that's 6x6. So I'll move that out of the way. So this is one side. And that's the other side. Here's another one. And then there's the opposite side. So it's plaid on one and checkerboard on the other. And some are small checkerboard, some are larger, excuse me. And there's that one. And then there's this one. And there's this one. And this one. Just love this paper. It's all got all the different colors in it. And then there's that side. So in the back of your DSP, if you're not familiar with that, move my glasses out of the way. In this little area right under the word Timeless Plaid Designer Paper, it tells you the colors: Basic Beige, Boho Blue, Cajun Craze, Calypso Coral, Cherry Cobbler, Crumb Cake, Early Espresso, Lost Lagoon, Misty Moonlight, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, Pebble Path, Pecan Pie, and Wild Wheat. Yes, indeedy. So it tells you what colors go together. Just in case you hear any noise, my husband's over here watching something on YouTube. People are having street fights that are with a judge and everything in a backyard. He watches some of the weirdest stuff, I swear. Okay, so let's get our stamp set. This is a photopolymer stamp. And let me get my blocks here. And I'm not going to be using the whole flower because I don't have the image being that big. But I want to go ahead and get these mounted. And it doesn't look like I brought enough blocks, but that's okay. I will suffice with what I have here. And there's that one. Of course, we need this one. And then when I want to use the saying, I will have to take it off the block. So we want this one. We want the little background. Yes, indeedy. And then the sentiments are: sometimes the simplest things mean the most. Friends are flowers in the garden of life. You are remarkable in every single way. So those are the sentiments. But we'll put those on last. Okay. So first off, let me give you the measurements. Okay, so I'm using Calypso Coral as my base, as my folded card. And of course, this is 5.5 by 8.5. Hello, Linda. Hello, B. Thank y'all for joining me live. And then you need a piece of basic white, 4 by 5 1/4. 4 by 5 1/4. That's for the inside. And then this is a 4-inch of basic beige. This is a neutral that came in, well, not in the neutral colors. It's just one of the basic colors that you need, like the basic white, basic vanilla, basic black. And this is basic beige. 4 inches. And then this is the DSP. It was cut into, you take the 6 and you cut it into 3-inch strips and turn that 3 by 6 around and cut it into a 3-inch square. And then I just cut them into a triangle, and we're going to use one side and then the other side. So I'll show you that. That's going to make our designer paper background. And then this is a 2 3/4 inch square of pecan pie. And then a piece of basic beige at 2.5 inch square. Okay? So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. First off, we want to go ahead and line this up on this paper. I want to stamp the back, this sentiment on the side, but since I've already mounted the stamps, we'll do that first, and then I can go and use one of the blocks, probably the green one. So we're going to go ahead and use Calypso Coral for the flower. This one here we're going to stamp in the Memento black pad, because I'm going to use the color to fill it in. And since this is the first time, let me move all this stuff out of the way, we need to go ahead and prime this. Therefore, stamp that. Awesome. And of course, we're not going to see the bottom, but we don't need to, because it needs to be on a bigger stamp, the E stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this right on here, just like that. And then we're going to bring in the, where is the, what green? I want to use the Old Olive. I'm going to fill in the greenery. So we're going to ink this up, and that's what's going to color that greenery in. We need to prime it first. Perfect. Now, with photopolymer, it is see-through. So what you want to do, you want to turn this to fill it in. And it doesn't have to be exact. Remember that. And you're just going to go ahead and stamp right on top of that. And therefore it does the greenery for you. Isn't that cool? Let me close this Memento for right now. Now we're going to bring in the Calypso Coral. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this off the block. So when you take off photopolymer off the block, be very careful so you don't tear it, because it will tear on you. The thinner, the easier it could. This is going to be for the sentiment. So here is the flower. And of course my Calypso Coral is a cloth pad. So I need a twist, then tap, tap. And then we're going to fit that in there, looking at the image, looking for the last one. There we go. And just go straight down. Isn't that cool? Now, to do the inside part, I'm going to use the wild wheat I didn't bring out here, but I think that's the one that just retired. So, I have the cloud cover spot. So I'm going to use that, and that goes with this. And you see this little divot? There's the divot right there. Perfect. And then we're just going to fit that in there. And there is the flower. And that's also, we're going to take this and we're going to use these little speckles. This one here. And I'm going to use that with the Calypso Coral, just to bring in a little bit of texture in the background. It doesn't have to be much. And without re-inking it, I'm going to stamp it off and get some light ones. So there is that. Oh, thank you, Bee. I appreciate that. I look forward to doing them myself. There, when I was doing it 3 times a week and just doing one project, I just didn't feel like I was utilizing my time very efficiently. So therefore, that's the reason why I went back to just doing one on Mondays on a regular basis and doing 3 projects. Because that way it worked out best for everybody. And if they can't catch it live, they can always watch it on a replay or watch it on my YouTube channel. Okay, so now we're ready to put this together. So first and foremost, we want to mount these. So I am going to put this piece here and this piece here. Do not think that you have to have a whole piece of DSP. You don't. So let me get my wonderful glue here and add some glue on the back side. And I'm probably going to kiss them because I don't want to have too much. Okay, so that's that side. So we're going to kiss these. And then we're going to peel them off. And then we're going to have a little bit of an edge, top and bottom. Once I get them both placed, I'll flip it over and press on the back side, so that way I don't shift them. Then I'm going to turn that over and just press around. There we go. Then I'm going to bring in this pecan pie. And then we're going to add this. And of course, we're going to mount that up on some dimensionals. I love using dimensionals. It takes extra postage, but you know what? When I send this to somebody, I don't worry about that extra ounce. I don't care. They're receiving a piece of handmade art with a little bit of love on the inside with a message. Now before, I'm going to go ahead and mount this, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Just in case I mess up on stamping the images. Okay, the sentiment. So first off, let me get my little dimensionals. I know I brought them out here. I just saw them. Honey, you gotta go get my Ziploc bag of dimensionals. I think I left them on the table. I've got 2 here.
Look at Ava got cripples fighting.
Roman, I hear you. Did you hear what I asked you, sweetheart? Never mind, I found him. I found him. He's telling me on this street fighting, they got people that are handicapped fighting. Oh my gosh.
In wheelchairs.
In wheelchairs, excuse me. Okay, honey. All right, now we just indent. My husband, he gets a kick out of it. They're just simplest things, I swear to God. All right, now we're going to center this best as possible, and I'm just looking at the top and bottom. And that checkerboard kind of gives you a help. So does this plaid. So there's that. Now, I don't think I got my Wink Stella. You could use Wink Stella on this. Don't have it with me, but that's okay. Now, here's the set. We're going to stamp a sentiment. And the sentiment is going to be this one. So you see this hard piece of plastic? You want to keep this. So after you mount them inside your case, you can cover and protect them. That's important. And I'm just going to lay this on here. And it also has a little bitty bee. A lot of people forget about that. See that little bee? Yeah, we're going to use that. Okay. Did you find me a little block? Yeah. I almost thought I hadn't mounted it straight. Okay, so first off, I got to find my big block I just took that stamp off of. What did I do with it? Oh my gosh. No, here it is. Here I say, did I lose it? No. No. Press on that. So, If you're not sure and you don't want to mess up your stuff, you can always flip it over. All right. Now I'm going to use my memento, but I'm going to use the B in Calypso Coral because I don't want it in black. It's so tiny and delicate. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I have everything straight. Right, we prime it. That means that we stamp it, then we re-ink it. And now we're going to stamp this. There's that. Isn't that cool? Now I just got to pull this off. Where's my Simply Chamois? When I clean this off, love this thing. It gets the ink right off of it. And then I can just put it back in the case. I'll fix it right next time. All right. So I'm ready to put this leaf back on the block. Okay. Now we're going to do the Calypso Coral with the little bee. I don't need this here anymore. Awesome. Wait till y'all see this. Okay, there's one bee. Now it really doesn't show up very dark, but you'll see it on the white because I'm going to use it on the inside. And what I do with my little inlay piece. There it is. I'll show it here. Because this is a note card. There's one bee. Then I'll have another bee coming into the other corner. So that's what the little bee looks like. Isn't that cool? Now let's finish putting this card together. So you don't think you have to use the whole image. A lot of people don't realize that, so you don't. All right. So I usually don't put glue on this, but I'm going to go ahead since I've already stamped it because it's a note card anyways. I got too much there. I got to smooth it out. All right. Flip this over. And then center it best as possible. There we go. Now we're ready to mount this piece here. That dimensional forgot to take the paper off. I saw that. It's like, okay, I got to fix that before I mail that to somebody. There we go. All these are stuck. It was just that one corner. Okay. So there is that card. Isn't that beautiful? All right. So let's go to card number 2. Let me scroll down. He's having a good time over there. Yeah, he is. Tell me what you were watching. They're not selling it as a bundle because it has some issues. Some of it shows half light, half dark. So what I did is I bought a package of blank spots and re-inked a re-inker with the re-inker bottle. And then I ordered some ink pads for my people that come to classes here. So that way, if they ordered a cloud cover re-inker, they could just re-ink a pad. So it is a cloth pad. It's not a foam pad. The foam pad is what's giving it issues. And any of those have been around, y'all remember it happened with the purple posy too. So this is a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cloud cover. And I could have used the bone folder, but I didn't. And these are the same sizes. This is our piece for the inside, 4 by 5 1/4. And then this is Old Olive. It's a 4-inch square. And then this is this side cut as a 3-inch. You can get 4 3-inch squares out of a 6-inch square. And then all I did was flip it over so you have the two-tone. And then this is Mossy Meadow, a 2 3/4 inch square with a basic white 2 1/2 inch square. So let's get started on this one. First off, we're going to mount our 2 triangles first. Now, I mounted this corner and this corner. This time, I'm going to do the opposite corners. So that way you get a variation. Because it really doesn't matter which corner. But remember when I did the inking on one triangle and brought the other triangle to kiss it. But make sure it's not the side that you want standing up. So we know that this side, we're using the back side. But we know we're using the plaid on the front side. So I'm just kissing these two. And then we're going to mount that to the old olive 4-inch square. And we're doing opposite corners this time versus what we did earlier. And then we're adding the glue to the 2 3/4 inch square and centering it best as possible. And this time I'm looking at the green here and there. Last time I used the dimensionals. I'll use the dimensionals on this piece this time because it doesn't matter which piece. Or we can use it on the square. This whole big square. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll use it on the big piece. Okay, so now we're ready to stamp. Okay, so, and some people say, can you stamp the flower and the leaves first? I says, no, not if you want to do the definition. If you're just stamping it solid image and not using this one, the answer is yes. So, let's do one without either one. So we're going to stamp this in the, where's my green? Mossy Meadow. We're going to use a Mossy Meadow. And we're going to stamp the flower first, not the green, because we need to know how much room we need. And we're going to use the cloud cover. So, let me twist this off. Don't have to clean it off. And then we're just going to go ahead and use the cloud cover stamp. I will prime it first and then stamp it, since I had another color on there. There we go. Okay, and since this is cloth, you do want to do a light twist and then go back and pat it. And then I'm just going to bring it over here and then count to 5. There we go. So now we're going to bring in the Mossy Meadow. Now I don't have to prime this one because I had the old olive and I don't have to clean it off. So remember that this is the stem. So we're going to bring it up to the flower. Okay, there we go. Now, we will use the old olive to do the speckles because it's got old olive in there. Stamp that off. And I'm just inking it up and then stamping it twice. There we go. And then if you want any in the center, I would suggest stamping it off and bringing it in. So that way you don't have dark. Now we want to do the center. So we're saying, okay, what color should we do the center with? And I'm thinking don't want to use the same color we used for the flower. So let's go with a balmy blue, because that will look good with it. Because I'm going to use that for the flower later. Stamp it off. And we're going to bring it in. Remember the divot. And then there's that. Okay. So now this one here is going to go there. And remember, I'm going to use dimensionals on the big piece now. And I'll switch on the next one. And just add the glue around the corners, the framework. And then tap. And then we're going to flip this over. And then we're going to add dimensionals. And this is when I use a big one, this is when I like to go in and use my outside pieces instead of my smaller ones. So I just go and I cut in between, because all of it's usable. And I always have leftovers of this, always. So whenever I make extra cards and stuff, this is what I use, is the outside, finishing it up. Because my Stampin' Buds, they all like to use a regular size. There we go. So now we're going to bring these in. And when it's a 4-inch square, I usually put 3 on each outside side. And then let me go over here and grab this side. Now then we'll turn and then fill in. And then 2 at the top and the bottom. And I continuously turn it as I put them on. Oops, that one took the peeling right off, so I better grab that one to put it in the center. And in the center, I'm going to do 2 diagonal. Okay. Get that. Now, we're not going to peel those off. Why? Because we got to stamp a sentiment. That's right. So let me use this block again. And slowly peeling this leaf off. I'll put it over there on that memento. And now I'm going to grab the sentiment. Sometimes the simplest things mean the most. There we go. And so I got ink here. I got dark clothing on, so I just wiped it off. So I'm going to use the grid paper. This is where it's in hand. It comes really in handy. It helps you line up your words where you have them straight on the block. Okay, now I forgot that one's peeled off. Okay, so we're going to put the sentiment on this side. So it's going to be just the opposite. And I'm going to use the Mossy Meadow for my ink. Nice. Okay, I got to move this a little bit over because this one needs to have a little bit more room, because the word simplest is wider than the earlier piece. And then where's our little B? There's our B. There we go. All right. Now we're ready to peel off those backings. That will have time to dry. And remember I said you just need put a little divot if you have trouble peeling these off, but they're no problem whatsoever. But just to show. Putting that bucket there. Okay, I think I got them all. Double check. Yep. And then we're going to mount this, and we'll look at my top, my right, and my bottom. Perfect. And there is that one. And I don't have my Wink and Stilla, but I have my shimmer pen. I think I'll use that. Especially on the trail of the bee and the flower. So there we go. So there's that one. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so now let's go on to our third one. I got all the stamps sitting up on top of it. Okay, so I'm using Balmy Blue as our card base. And it is a 5.5 by 8.5. And this one we're going to go ahead and fold it in half. And I'm trying to think the last thing every single way. I don't know if that will fit. It's a smaller saying, and it won't. So I have to do that. So I'm going to show you this first. We're going to go ahead and stamp this saying first. And we are going to use the memento because we need that greenery back. So let me clean this one off so I have it. And we'll stamp our saying first. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to use my grid paper so I can get it straight. Use grid paper. There we go. And then I want to ink it up. Awesome. Alright. So I'm going to use the green as the guide. This is a Mossy Meadow, 4-inch square. And then I am going to mount this down closer towards the bottom. There we go. And remember the bee? We're going to go ahead and bring the bee and stamp it in the Balmy Blue. While I'm cleaning off this stamp, so I can mount the greenery back to it. Okay, what did I do with the greenery? There it is. It's on the lid of the memento pad. Which I will be using that in a second. Okay. There we go. Got that set. That set. Then we can go ahead and mount this. No, we want to stamp the bees. That's right. Gina, stop jumping ahead here. Let me fix this. So this time I'm going to do quite a few bees. Coming in different directions. There we go. So you can really see them flying around. There we go. So that's a busy bee card. All right. Okay, now we can mount that. So let me get my wet glue this time. So just to show you the variations, it doesn't matter which way you do it, which part you start off first, except when it comes to stamping your sentiment. Because just in case you mess up, you want to be able to move your green paper over to the other side. In case you mess up on the saying. The B's you can't mess up on at all. No, unless you over ink your pad. Okay, so the next piece is these. The plaid paper. So we're going to put the glue on the back of this one. And then I'm going to kiss the other piece to it. And we know we want this one showing up, so that doesn't go on the glue. The back side does. So we kiss these two together. Then we peel them off. Oops, stuck to my finger. That's what happens. And then we press that in. And now we're ready to put this piece on. And see, that's the reason why you don't want to use olive, because olive is what this is. It looks great with the mossy metal, really stands that out. I got glue on my fingers, so I got to get it off. There we go. Now we can mount this with dimensionals. There's that one. And this is what I usually do, is I turn them as I put them on, so they're not all going the same direction. What you don't want to do is have it where it's hanging off, where it shows. That you don't want. And then there's that. And I'll move these in. And then put one in the center. That's a smaller square. Okay, then indent. And these peel right up. There we go. Now, I'm looking at it. There we go. Now we're ready for stamping. And this is a piece that's going to go on the inside. I'm not going to stamp that one. Move that out of the way, so now we can do the flower. So we're going to bring this image back in like we did in the beginning. Hey, Debbie Woodby. And you're going to ink this one up. And we're going to go 1. And then we're going to bring in a second one. Right? And then, of course, we're going to take this B and bring it in. So then you really can see it. Nice, right? Now we're going to bring our colors in. We're going to bring in Balmy Blue and Old Olive. And that's the positives. That's the ones that fills in. And there's the greenery. Okay. They were say, what did I do with it? I know I put it back on the block. All right. Now, we're going to ink up the flower in the Balmy Blue. And you're going to look at your image. If you're not sure, you look at this petal with this petal. And it helps you line up every time. Okay? See that? That cool? Now, I don't have that petal, so I'm going to look at this petal. And there's that one. Now, we're going to use the Calypso Coral for the centers. Now, I don't want it to be as dark. Let's see what it's going to look like. Light color, that's what we want. So you want to stamp it off and then stamp it on. Oh, I see, Debbie. Your husband had to have surgery. How'd everything go? That's why I haven't seen y'all at church. Okay, there's that part. Now we're ready to do the fill-in on the greenery, which is going to be the old olive. You can always catch the replays, honey, whenever you can. You don't have to be on here when I'm live. You do know that. Okay, so now we're ready to fill in with the greenery. So remember that this is the stem of the flower, this piece right there. So that's what you look at, and you turn it to where you got it. And you do the same thing on this one, except this one, we gotta turn just like that. And if you don't get it right, remember, we have ink here. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can double stamp, and it fills it in. Okay? And you can also use your Stampin' Blends or watercolor pencils. I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in just a little bit more. And that way it shows a variation of 3 different colors. Now, we're ready to do the other part. We're going to take the spotty, and we're going to bring in the cloud cover, and we're going to ink that up and bring the spots in, just to add a texture in the background. Not much, but just enough. Works perfect. Let me move all this stuff out of the way so I can bring the cards back in. So now we're ready to mount that onto this card. But we got to highlight our little bee with the shimmer pen. That's white. I need the glitter. Holy crap. Let me glitter that up. There we go. Okay, so there is that one. All right. Now we're ready to mount this one. Hopefully I gotta wait for this to dry. I should have done that last. Wasn't thinking. Oh, Randy had back surgery, honey. Did not know he was going to have that. Oh, my prayers with you, Debbie. That is going to be a lengthy recovery. Oh my gosh. There we go. All right. There is number 3. So, I'll separate the blues, because this is the cloud cover. And this is the balmy blue. And here's the Calypso Coral. And it can separate the 3 of them. But aren't those gorgeous? They came out so nice. Let me see if I can get them all in the picture. Maybe if I do it this way, I can. There we go. There we go. We get them all in there. But anyways, I hope y'all have enjoyed that. And I love this stamp set. I couldn't wait to order it when I was able to order it. And I think this one, it doesn't state it. But there's a demonstrator, I know, Janet Wakeland, that she has, the name of her group is the Remarkable Stampers. So I was wondering if that was hers. But on the stamp set, it doesn't say $1 million achiever. So, anyways, but it's a beautiful stamp set. But thank you for joining, and check back with me next Monday at 7 p.m. and I'll have something new and fun for you to watch and see, and where you can create with whatever you have on hand. Take care and have a wonderful week. Bye bye. What, honey?
Look what I found.